A little boy with trembling purple hands pulled the only blanket he had off his own body and wrapped it around a dying stranger lying in the freezing snow. That stranger was a hellborn angel collapsed, turning blue beneath the bridge, where no one cared whether you lived or died. Yet a single innocent act from a child who had nothing changed everything. 3 days later, the ground shook. Thousands of motorcycles thundered into the city like a storm, and what happened next made even the toughest men cry, reminding an entire nation what it truly means to be human. Before we begin, hit that subscribe button and stay with me until the end of this story. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Now let me tell you about Tommy Chen and the night that changed everything. The cardboard wasn't holding. Sarah Chen could feel the cold seeping through the layers, through the newspapers she'd stuffed between the boxes, through the plastic tarp she'd scavenged from behind the hardware store. Her fingers were numb as she tried to fold another piece over the gap where the wind cut through like a knife. "Mama, I can see my breath like a dragon," Tommy said beside her. Sarah looked at her son and felt her heart crack a little more. 7 years old. 7 years old. And he thought freezing to death was a game. "That's right, baby," she said, forcing brightness into her voice. "You're breathing fire tonight." The thermometer she'd seen outside the gas station had read 15 degrees 2 hours ago. It was colder now. Much colder. The kind of cold that killed people and everyone knew it. The kind of cold that made the city sweepers come through and tell you to move along like there was somewhere to go, like the shelters weren't already packed beyond capacity, with a waiting list 3 days long. Tommy pulled the thermal blanket tighter around both of them. It was thin, meant for emergencies, the kind they handed out at the free clinic. Silver on one side, blue on the other. It crinkled when you moved. It was the only thing standing between them and hypothermia. "Tell me the story again," Tommy said. "About when we had the apartment." Sarah closed her eyes. She didn't want to tell that story. Didn't want to remember the medical bills that had piled up after her diagnosis, the way the insurance company had found reasons not to cover treatment, the layoff that came right when she needed her job most. Didn't want to remember the eviction notice, the storage unit. They couldn't afford the car that got repossessed. Didn't want to remember the caseworker who'd suggested she give Tommy up to foster care just temporarily until you get back on your feet. She'd walked out of that office and never looked back. "We had a kitchen," she said softly, "with a window over the sink. You used to stand on a stool and help me wash dishes." "And I had my own room," Tommy added. His voice was getting drowsy. "That was bad. You weren't supposed to fall asleep in cold like this." "Hey," Sarah said sharply, shaking him a little. "Stay awake for me, baby. Tell me what you learned at the library today." Tommy had spent 4 hours at the public library while she'd gone to 3 different churches trying to get food vouchers. The library was warm. The library had bathrooms. The library let a homeless kid sit and read without calling security. "Miss Jennifer showed me a book about motorcycles," Tommy said, perking up a little. "Big ones, Harleys. She said her dad used to ride one." Sarah had seen the bikers sometimes rolling through in packs, all leather and chrome and noise. She pulled Tommy closer away from those thoughts, away from that world. "That's nice, baby. What else?" But Tommy had gone quiet, staring out through the gap in their cardboard shelter. Sarah followed his gaze and felt her stomach drop. A man had just stumbled under the bridge. A big man wearing a leather jacket that said Hell's Angels across the back in bold patches. He was moving wrong, lurching his steps uncoordinated. As they watched, he collapsed against one of the concrete support pillars, sliding down to sit with his back against it. Sarah grabbed Tommy's arm. "Don't look at him. Don't make eye contact." She'd learned that lesson fast on the streets. Don't see, don't engage, don't make yourself noticed. Men like that, men with gang colors, they were dangerous. They were trouble. They were everything she needed to keep Tommy away from. But Tommy was 7 and 7-year-olds don't understand danger the way adults do. 7-year-olds still believe the world is fundamentally good. "Mama, he's shaking really bad." Sarah looked despite herself. The man was shaking. Violent full-body tremors that even she could see from 20 feet away. His hands were covering his face and his shoulders were hunched forward like he was trying to fold in on himself. "He's fine," Sarah said. "He's not our problem." She heard how cold that sounded, how hard. 2 years ago she would have helped. 2 years ago she would have called 911, would have offered her coat, would have done something. But 2 years on the streets had taught her that you couldn't save everyone. You could barely save yourself. The man made a sound low and broken. His shaking was getting worse. "Mama, he's turning blue." "Tommy, look at me." Sarah grabbed her son's face, forcing him to meet her eyes. "We can't help him. We don't have anything to give. We need this blanket. Do you understand? We need it." Tommy's eyes, those big dark eyes that still held on to innocence, despite everything, searched her face. "But Mama, you said you told me, that time you said, when you were really sick and didn't have money, someone at the church gave you medicine, even though they didn't have to. You said that's why we're still together." Sarah felt something twist in her chest. She had said that. She'd told him that story on a night like this, trying to explain why there was still good in the world, why he should still have hope. "Baby, this is different. You said we should be like that person. You said even when we don't have much, we should share." The man across from them made another sound. It wasn't a groan anymore. It was weaker than that. The sound of someone giving up. Sarah looked at her son, then at the stranger, then at the thin thermal blanket wrapped around them both. She did the math in her head. The gas station 3 blocks away stayed open all night. They could go there, stand inside for a few hours. Maybe the clerk wouldn't kick them out. Maybe. But if they left their spot under the bridge, someone else would take it. And if the police came through again, if they had to move in the middle of the night without shelter, without a blanket, "Mama, please." Sarah looked at Tommy and saw her own face from 2 years ago, before the streets had hardened her, before she'd learned that compassion was a luxury homeless people couldn't afford. "No," she said firmly. "I'm sorry, but no. I have to keep you safe." Tommy's face crumpled. Not with tears, he'd learned not to cry. Crying made you a target, but with something worse. Disappointment. "Okay, Mama," he whispered. Sarah felt like she'd just failed the most important test of her life. They sat in silence, wrapped in their blanket, watching the stranger shake himself to death 20 feet away. The wind howled. The temperature dropped. The man's movements were getting slower, less coordinated. His hands had fallen from his face, and even in the dim light from the distant street lamps, Sarah could see his lips had turned blue. 10 minutes passed. 15. Then Tommy spoke, his voice very small. "Mama, if that was you over there, would you want someone to help?" Sarah's eyes burned. "Tommy, would you?" "Yes," Sarah whispered. "Yes, I would." "Then we have to. Baby, we'll freeze. Then we freeze together." Tommy looked up at her, and in that moment he looked older than 7. Older than any child should ever have to be. "You taught me that's what good people do. They help even when it's hard." Sarah felt the tears come then hot against her frozen cheeks. Her son, her beautiful, impossible son, was right. She'd spent 2 years teaching him to survive, but somewhere in all that survival, she'd forgotten to teach him the thing that mattered most: how to stay human. "Okay," she said, her voice breaking. "Okay, baby, but I'm coming with you." "No." Tommy was already unwrapping the blanket from around them. "You're sick too, Mama. You need to stay warm. I'll be fast." "Tommy Chen, you listen to me." But he was already moving the blanket clutched in his small hands, walking across the concrete toward the dying stranger. Sarah lunged after him, but her body was so cold, so stiff from hours of sitting that she stumbled. By the time she caught herself, Tommy was already kneeling beside the man. "Sir," Tommy's voice echoed under the bridge. "Sir, are you okay?" The man didn't respond. His eyes were closed now. His shaking had slowed to occasional tremors. Tommy looked back at his mother, and Sarah saw the fear in his face, the understanding that this man might already be dead. But her son didn't run. Her brave, foolish, beautiful son unfolded the thermal blanket and draped it over the stranger's shoulders. "Here," Tommy said softly. "You need this more than me." The man's eyes fluttered open. Blue eyes, Sarah noted distantly, confused and unfocused, fighting to make sense of what was happening. "Kid?" The word came out slurred, thick. "What are you?" "Shh," Tommy said the way Sarah said it to him when he was scared. "You're really cold. This'll help." The man's eyes focused, then really focused, looking from the blanket to Tommy's thin jacket to Sarah standing frozen several feet away. Understanding dawned slowly across his face. "This yours?" he managed to ask. "It's okay," Tommy said. "Me and my mama were tough. We'll be okay." "Kid, no." The man tried to push the blanket away, but his hands weren't working right. His fingers couldn't grip. "You need this. So do you," Tommy said simply. He tucked the blanket more firmly around the man's shoulders, patting it down the way Sarah did for him. "My name's Tommy. What's yours?" The man stared at him. In his eyes, Sarah saw something she recognized, the look of someone encountering Grace when they'd forgotten Grace existed. "Marcus," he whispered. "My name's Marcus." "Nice to meet you, Marcus." Tommy smiled, that gap-toothed smile that could break your heart. "You're going to be okay now." Then Tommy stood up and walked back to his mother, leaving the blanket behind, leaving their only defense against the killing cold behind, and Sarah grabbed him and held him and didn't know whether to scream or cry or thank God for giving her a son better than she deserved. "Mama," Tommy whispered against her shoulder. "We did good, right?" "Yeah, baby," Sarah said, her whole body starting to shake now that the blanket was gone. "We did good." From across the concrete, Marcus watched them. Even through his hypothermia-addled brain, even through the confusion and the cold, he understood what had just happened. A homeless woman and her child had just given him their only protection against a night that was absolutely going to kill someone. They'd chosen him to live even if it meant they might die. Marcus's hands found the edges of the blanket. It was thin, cheap, barely enough for one person, let alone two, and they'd given it to a stranger, to a Hell's Angel, to someone most people crossed the street to avoid. "Hey," he called out, his voice rough. "Hey, kid, come here." Tommy looked at his mother. Sarah was shaking her head, pulling Tommy closer, but the boy wriggled free and walked back over. "Yeah." Marcus forced his arms to work, forced his frozen hands to move. He opened the blanket. "Get in here." "But that's for you. I'm twice your size. Body heat works better when you share. Basic survival." Marcus's teeth were chattering so hard he could barely speak. "Come on, before your mom has a heart attack." Tommy hesitated, then looked back at Sarah. "Mama." Sarah should have said no. Should have grabbed her son and run. Should have protected him from the stranger with gang colors and a reputation for violence. But the stranger was holding the blanket open and shaking like a leaf, and Tommy was already starting to turn blue around his lips, and sometimes you had to choose between being careful and being alive. "Go on, baby," she heard herself say. "I'll be right here." Tommy climbed under the blanket, and Marcus wrapped it around the boy's small frame, then pulled him close. Sarah watched her son disappear into this stranger's arms and felt every protective instinct scream. "Ma'am," Marcus called out, his voice stronger now. "You too. Get over here." "I'm fine," Sarah lied. "You're turning blue. Don't make me get up and carry you, because I will." Despite everything, Sarah almost laughed. The man could barely sit upright, and he was threatening to carry her. "Come on, Mama," Tommy said from inside the blanket. "He's really warm." Sarah's resistance crumbled. She was so cold, so impossibly cold, and her son was already with this stranger, so what did she have to lose? She walked over and let Marcus pull her under the blanket too. The three of them huddled together against the pillar. Marcus was right. Body heat did work better when you shared. She could already feel warmth starting to seep back into her limbs. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank your kid," Marcus said. "I was dead. Another 10 minutes, and I would have been gone." He looked down at Tommy, who had already tucked himself against Marcus's side like a small animal seeking warmth. "How old are you, son?" "7. 7 years old, and you got more heart than most men I've known." Marcus's voice was rough with something that wasn't just cold. "What's your name?" "Tommy Chen. That's my mama, Sarah." "Tommy Chen." Marcus tested the name. "You just saved my life, Tommy Chen. You understand that?" Tommy looked up at him with those enormous eyes. "You would have done the same thing." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "No," he said finally, honestly. "I don't think I would have. Not anymore. Not for a long time." They sat in silence, the three of them sharing the thin blanket and each other's warmth. Above them, occasional cars rumbled across the bridge. The wind howled. The snow began to fall, light at first, then heavier. "Why are you out here?" Sarah asked finally, "if you don't mind me asking." Marcus laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Bike broke down about 3 miles from here. I was trying to walk to my clubhouse when hypothermia hit. Couldn't think straight. Ended up here." "Where's your clubhouse?" "Other side of the river. Might as well be other side of the moon right now. Your friends, the other bikers, won't they look for you?" Marcus shook his head. "They don't know I'm here. I was riding solo, didn't check in. They probably think I'm at a bar somewhere." His jaw tightened. "By the time they realize I'm missing, it'll be too late." "Not anymore," Tommy said sleepily. "You're going to be okay now." Marcus looked down at the boy, then at Sarah, then out at the snow falling heavier now. "We need to stay awake," he said. "All of us. Falling asleep in cold like this is how people die." "Tell us about your motorcycle," Tommy said, fighting against drowsiness. So Marcus talked. He talked about his Harley, about the open road, about the brotherhood of the club. He talked about rides through the mountains and nights under the stars. He made it sound like freedom, like family, like everything Sarah and Tommy had lost. And Tommy listened, his eyes bright despite his exhaustion. His small body pressed against Marcus's side, warmed by the body heat of a stranger who'd become something else in the span of an hour. Something like hope. The night crawled by. Every hour felt like 10. They took turns telling stories, forcing each other to stay conscious. Sarah talked about the apartment they'd lost, about Tommy's love of books, about the dreams she still had of getting back on her feet. Tommy talked about the library, about Miss Jennifer, who let him stay past closing time, about wanting to be a teacher someday. And Marcus listened, and somewhere in the listening, something inside him broke open. He'd spent 15 years in the Hells Angels, 15 years of loyalty and brotherhood and living by the code. He'd done things he wasn't proud of and things he was. He'd helped people when they needed it and hurt people when they deserved it. He'd thought he understood what loyalty meant. But this kid, this 7-year-old homeless kid who had nothing, had just taught him what real loyalty looked like. When the sky finally started to lighten, turning from black to gray, Marcus made a decision. "Listen to me," he said, his voice firm despite his exhaustion. "Both of you listen." Sarah and Tommy looked up at him. "I'm going to get help. I'm going to walk to my clubhouse, and I'm going to come back with food and blankets and whatever else you need. You understand?" "You don't have to," Sarah started. "Yeah, I do." Marcus cut her off gently. "Your boy saved my life. In my world, that means something. That means everything." "We don't need charity," Sarah said, her voice tight with pride. "This isn't charity. This is a debt." Marcus looked at Tommy. "You ever heard of the Hells Angels, kid?" Tommy nodded. "Miss Jennifer said you're bad guys." Marcus smiled grimly. "Yeah, that's what people say. But you know what we really are? We're family. And when someone saves your life, they become family too. You understand?" Tommy's eyes went wide. "Really? Really?" Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out his Hells Angels patch, the one that read Prospect on the bottom. He'd earned that patch 5 years ago. It meant something. It meant everything. He put it in Tommy's small hands. "You hold on to this for me. It's a promise. I'm coming back." "When?" Tommy whispered. 3 days. Maybe sooner. But I promise you, kid, I'm coming back." Sarah wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him, but she'd heard promises before. Everyone on the streets had heard promises. Marcus saw the doubt in her face. He took off his leather jacket, leaving him in just a thermal shirt, and wrapped it around Sarah's shoulders. This too. Call it collateral. You'll freeze. I'm from Seattle. This is nothing. It was a lie. He was already shaking again, but he said it with such conviction that Tommy smiled. Marcus stood up slowly, testing his legs. They held barely. He handed the blanket back to Sarah and Tommy. 3 days, he said again. I swear to God, I'm coming back for you. Then he walked out from under the bridge into the dawn, into the snow, into the freezing morning. Sarah and Tommy watched him go until he was just a dark shape in the distance, then nothing at all. Tommy looked down at the patch in his hands. Mama, will he really come back? Sarah pulled her son close, wrapped them both in the blanket and Marcus's jacket, and tried to believe. I don't know, baby, but we're going to be okay either way. We always are. But as they sat there in the growing light, Sarah found herself hoping. It had been so long since she'd allowed herself to hope. 3 days. That's what he'd said. 3 days until they found out if kindness was still worth something in this world. 3 days until they learned whether Marcus Sullivan was a man of his word. 3 days until everything changed. Under the bridge in the cold morning light, Tommy Chen held onto a Hells Angels patch and believed. Because 7-year-olds still can. Because 7-year-olds still do. And somewhere across the city, Marcus Sullivan walked through the snow with frozen hands and a fire in his chest, already planning how to repay the debt of a blanket given by a boy who had nothing. Already planning how to show that child that yes, the world could still be good. That yes, promises still meant something. That yes, one act of kindness could change absolutely everything. The snow fell heavier. The temperature dropped. But under that bridge, wrapped in a thin blanket and a stranger's jacket, Sarah and Tommy Chen were warmer than they'd been in weeks. Because they weren't alone anymore. Not really. And 3 days from now, they'd find out just how true that was. Marcus made it 6 blocks before his legs gave out. He caught himself against a brick wall, gasping his breath coming in ragged clouds. His hands were numb again. His face felt like it was burning and freezing at the same time. The thermal shirt he'd kept wasn't enough. Not even close. But he pushed off the wall and kept walking. He'd made a promise to a 7-year-old kid, and Marcus Sullivan didn't break promises. Not to brothers, not to anyone. Especially not to someone who'd saved his life. The clubhouse was another mile. He could make it. He had to make it. His phone was dead, had been dead since yesterday when the bike broke down. No way to call for help. No way to tell anyone where he was. Just his feet, and his will, and the memory of Tommy's face when he'd handed over that blanket. A kid. A homeless kid with nothing had given him everything. Marcus's jaw tightened. 3 days. He'd promised 3 days, but he was going to make it happen in 2. 1, if he could manage it. The sun was fully up by the time he stumbled through the door of the Hells Angels clubhouse. The warmth hit him like a physical blow, and he nearly collapsed right there in the entryway. Jesus Christ, is that Marcus? Hands grabbed him. Voices shouted. Someone threw a blanket over his shoulders while someone else pressed a hot cup into his frozen hands. Where the hell have you been? We've been calling you for 12 hours. Bike broke down. Marcus managed through chattering teeth. Walked. Got caught in the cold. You stupid son of a... That was Ray Martinez, the chapter president, pushing through the crowd. Ray was 48, built like a bear with a gray beard and eyes that could cut through steel. You could have died out there. I almost did. Marcus looked up at Ray, at the brothers gathered around, and felt something crack in his chest. I need to tell you something. All of you. Right now. 20 minutes later, Marcus sat in the main room with 15 brothers around him, a space heater at his feet, and his 3rd cup of coffee in his hands. His fingers were working again. The shaking had mostly stopped, but the fire in his chest was burning hotter than ever. So, let me get this straight, Ray said slowly. A homeless kid 7 years old gave you his only blanket, in 15-degree weather. His and his mother's only blanket, Marcus corrected. They were both using it. They gave it to me anyway. That's insane, someone muttered. That's suicide, someone else added. That's brotherhood. Marcus's voice cut through the room like a knife. That kid showed me what this patch is supposed to mean, and he doesn't even know what a Hell's Angel is. Ray leaned back in his chair, studying Marcus. You're serious about this? Dead serious. I told him I'd come back in 3 days with help. I'm going back tomorrow. Tomorrow, Marcus, you can barely stand. Tomorrow, Marcus repeated firmly. I gave that kid my word. My word means something. The room went quiet. In the Hell's Angels, your word was law. You said something, you did it. No excuses, no exceptions. What do you need? Ray asked. Marcus felt relief wash through him. Food, blankets, warm clothes, whatever we can spare. Done. Ray stood up. Brothers, you heard him. Let's put together a care package. Marcus, you rest. We'll handle this. But Marcus shook his head. There's more. That kid Tommy, he's living under a bridge with his mother. They've got nothing. Less than nothing. And they still gave me their blanket. So we help them, Ray said. That's what we do. It's not enough. Marcus looked around at his brothers. I want to do more. I want to show that kid that kindness matters, that the world isn't completely shit. What are you thinking? Ray asked slowly. Marcus took a breath. I'm thinking we ride out there. All of us. I'm thinking we make some noise. I'm thinking we show that mother and her kid that when you save a Hell's Angel's life, you get a whole chapter's gratitude. Someone laughed. You want to roll the whole crew out for a homeless kid? Yeah, Marcus said without hesitation. I do. The room erupted in voices, some agreeing, some arguing. Ray held up his hand for silence. Let me think about it, he said. In the meantime, we get that care package together. Marcus, you get some sleep. We'll talk more tonight. Marcus wanted to argue, wanted to demand they leave right now, but exhaustion was catching up with him. He nodded and let someone lead him to a back room with a cot, but before he lay down, he pulled out his phone, now charging, and did something he hadn't done in years. He posted on social media. The post was simple, just a photo of his Hell's Angels jacket and a few lines of text. Last night, a 7-year-old homeless kid saved my life by giving me his only blanket in freezing weather. He had nothing and gave me everything. If that's not brotherhood, I don't know what is. Going back to help him. Anyone who wants to join me is welcome. He hit post and collapsed onto the cot. He was asleep in seconds. Meanwhile, under the bridge, Sarah and Tommy were facing their own crisis. Mama, you're really hot. Sarah tried to open her eyes and couldn't. Her head felt like it was stuffed with cotton and her chest hurt when she breathed. I'm okay, baby, she whispered, but her voice sounded wrong even to her own ears. You're not okay. Tommy's small hand touched her forehead. You're burning up. Sarah forced her eyes open. Tommy's face swam into focus above her, tight with worry. Just a fever, she managed. It'll pass. But she knew it wouldn't. She'd felt this coming for days, the scratchy throat, the deep cough, the bone-aching exhaustion. She'd ignored it because what choice did she have? You couldn't be sick when you were homeless. Being sick meant dying. I'm going to get help, Tommy said, standing up. No. Sarah grabbed his arm with strength she didn't know she had left. You stay here. You don't go anywhere alone. But Mama, promise me, Tommy. Promise you won't leave. Tommy's lip trembled. What if you get worse? Then we deal with it together. Sarah pulled him close, ignoring how much the movement hurt. We're a team. Remember, we stick together. Okay, Tommy whispered against her shoulder. Okay, Mama. They lay there together, wrapped in Marcus's jacket and the thin blanket, and Sarah tried not to think about pneumonia, about hospitals she couldn't afford, about what would happen to Tommy if she died. The day dragged by in a fever haze. Tommy tried to get her to drink water from their shared bottle, but Sarah's stomach rebelled. She couldn't keep anything down. By nightfall, she was worse. Much worse. Mama, please, Tommy begged. Please let me get help. Sarah couldn't answer. The fever had her in its grip, and she was shaking so hard her teeth rattled. Tommy made a decision. He tucked the blanket more firmly around his mother, put on Marcus's jacket, even though it hung to his knees, and picked up the Hells Angels patch Marcus had given him. "I'll be back, Mama," he said. "I promise." Then he ran. He didn't know where he was going, just away toward lights, toward people, toward someone who might help. His small legs pumped hard against the concrete, his breath coming in gasps. Marcus's jacket flapping around him like wings. He made it 3 blocks before strong hands grabbed him. "Whoa there, kid! Where's the fire?" Tommy looked up into the face of a police officer. Relief flooded through him. "My mama," he gasped. "She's sick. Really sick. Under the bridge. Please, you have to help her." The officer's expression changed. "You're homeless." "Yes, sir. Please. My mama needs a doctor." "Okay, calm down. Show me where she is." Tommy led the officer back to the bridge, back to where Sarah lay burning with fever. The officer took one look at her and called for an ambulance. "How long has she been like this?" he asked Tommy while they waited. "Since this morning. She keeps getting hotter." The officer, his name tag said Chen. No relation, looked at Tommy with something like pity. "What's your name, son?" "Tommy. Tommy Chen." "And your mom?" "Sarah Chen." Officer Chen wrote it down. "Anyone else we should call dad grandparents?" "No, sir. It's just us." The ambulance arrived and the paramedics loaded Sarah onto a stretcher. She was barely conscious, mumbling things Tommy couldn't understand. "Can I go with her?" Tommy asked. The officer hesitated. "Kid, I can't let you ride in the ambulance alone. I need to call Child Protective Services." "No." Tommy backed away. "No, you can't take me away from my mama. It's just temporary until she's better. That's what they all say." Tommy was crying now, hot, angry tears streaming down his face. "But temporary becomes forever. I'm not leaving her. Tommy." But Tommy was already running again, diving away from the officer's reaching hands, disappearing into the shadows under the bridge. Officer Chen swore and spoke into his radio. "We've got a runner. 7-year-old boy, Asian, wearing an oversized leather jacket. Last seen heading east on Morrison." But Tommy was fast and small and desperate. He knew these streets in ways the police didn't. He ran until his lungs burned, until his legs gave out, until he collapsed in an alley 3 blocks away and sobbed into Marcus's jacket. His mama was gone. The police were looking for him. He had nowhere to go and no one to call. Except Tommy pulled out the Hells Angels patch from his pocket and stared at it through his tears. Marcus had said 3 days. It had only been 1. But Tommy didn't have 3 days. He didn't even have 1. He needed help now. Meanwhile, back at the clubhouse, Marcus's phone was exploding. He woke up to 53 notifications, then 100, then 200. His post had been shared across the biker community like wildfire. Comments poured in. "This is what brotherhood looks like. That kid showed more heart than most adults. Count me in. Portland chapter here. We're riding with you. Seattle standing by. When do we roll? Sacramento Hells Angels ready to ride. That boy's one of ours now." Marcus sat up staring at his phone in disbelief. The post had gone viral in the motorcycle community. Brothers from chapters he didn't even know were pledging to ride with him. He found Ray in the main room, phone to his ear, coordinating. "Yeah, we can accommodate 50 bikes. No, make it 100. Jesus Christ. How many chapters are responding?" Ray hung up and looked at Marcus. "Your post, it's blown up." "I see that." "Marcus, we've got chapters from 5 states saying they want to ride with us, to help that kid." Marcus felt something swell in his chest. "How many total?" "At last count 300 bikes, and the numbers keep climbing." 300. Marcus couldn't finish the sentence. "It's more than that." Ray pulled up something on his own phone. "Look at this." It was a response post from a rival MC club. "Hells Angels got this one right. Any kid brave enough to save a life deserves our respect. Mongols MC will ride with you. Name the time and place." "The Mongols," Marcus breathed. "There are—" "I know what they are." Ray's voice was tight. "But they're putting aside the rivalry for this. So are the banditos and the outlaws. Marcus, the entire motorcycle community is rallying. Marcus sat down hard. For Tommy. For Tommy, Ray agreed. For what he represents. That kid reminded everyone what brotherhood is supposed to mean. So what do? Ray smiled, slow and dangerous. We give them a show they'll never forget. We roll tomorrow morning. Every bike, every brother, every patch who wants to ride for that boy. We make some noise. We make sure Tommy Chen knows he's not alone anymore. His mother, Sarah, she needs help too. Then we help her. We help both of them. Hell, we help every homeless person under that bridge. Ray clapped Marcus on the shoulder. You started something here, brother. Something bigger than you or me. Now we see it through. That night, the calls came in from everywhere. Oregon, Washington, California, Nevada, Idaho. Chapters checking in, confirming numbers, coordinating arrival times. By midnight, the estimate was 500 bikes. By 2 a.m., it was 700. By dawn, it was approaching 1,000. Marcus stood outside the clubhouse in the cold morning air, watching bikes roll in from every direction. Chrome gleaming, engines roaring, patches from chapters he'd only heard about in stories. They came for Tommy. They came for a 7-year-old boy who'd given a blanket to a stranger. They came because that boy had reminded them what they'd all sworn to be. Brothers. Family. Loyal to the end. Ray walked up beside him. You ready for this? No, Marcus admitted. But we're doing it anyway. Damn right we are. Ray checked his phone. 943 bikes confirmed. We roll in 30 minutes. Marcus thought about Tommy under that bridge, probably scared, probably cold, probably wondering if he'd ever come back. Let's make it 20, Marcus said. I made a promise. I'm already a day late. Ray grinned. 20 minutes it is. The call went out. Engines fired up. The sound was deafening, a rolling thunder that shook windows and set off car alarms for blocks. 943 motorcycles. 943 riders. All headed to one bridge on the east side of Portland. All riding for Tommy Chen. As they rolled out, Marcus felt his phone buzz one more time. A text from an unknown number. This is Officer David Chen, Portland PD. I responded to a call last night about a sick homeless woman named Sarah Chen and her son Tommy. The boy ran when we tried to separate them. If you're the Marcus, he kept talking about the kid needs you. He's got your jacket and won't talk to anyone else. Mother's at Emmanuel Hospital with pneumonia. Find the boy before CPS does, or he goes into the system. Marcus's blood ran cold. Tommy was out there alone. Sarah was in the hospital. And Child Protection Services was hunting for a 7-year-old who would do anything to avoid foster care. He texted back, "On my way, tell me everything." The response came immediately. Check the alleys between Morrison and Belmont. He knows those streets. And Marcus. That kid saved your life. Don't let the system take him. Marcus showed the text to Ray. Ray's jaw tightened. Change of plans. We split up. Half the crew goes to the hospital for Sarah. The other half tears apart every alley until we find Tommy. CPS will fight us. Let them try. Ray's voice was steel. That boy's family now. No one takes family. The convoy split at the river, half headed to Emmanuel Hospital. The other half, with Marcus in the lead, headed to the east side. 943 bikes rolling through Portland in the early morning light, looking for one small boy in an oversized jacket. A boy who'd saved a stranger's life and accidentally started a revolution. Tommy heard them coming before he saw them. The sound was like nothing he'd ever experienced. A deep rhythmic roar that grew louder and louder until the ground itself seemed to shake. He pressed himself deeper into the alley, clutching Marcus's jacket around him. The police were looking for him. If they found him, they'd take him away from his mama, put him in foster care. He'd heard the stories from other street kids. Foster care was where you disappeared, where you stopped being you. The roar grew closer. Tommy peeked around the corner and froze. Motorcycles, hundreds of them, thousands maybe. They filled the street from sidewalk to sidewalk, chrome glinting in the morning sun, engines thundering like war drums. And on the lead bike, wearing the same leather vest Tommy had seen yesterday, was Marcus. Marcus was scanning the streets, his head turning back and forth, clearly searching for something, searching for someone. Tommy's heart began to pound. Marcus had come back. He'd actually come back. But he wasn't alone. He'd brought an army. Tommy stepped out of the alley, small and fragile against the wall of motorcycles. He raised his hand, still holding Marcus's patch. Marcus saw him. Their eyes met across 30 feet of pavement. The lead bike stopped. All 943 bikes behind it stopped. The engines cut. In the sudden silence, Tommy's voice carried clear and desperate. "They took my mama!" Marcus was off his bike and running before the words finished leaving Tommy's mouth. He dropped to his knees in front of the boy, hands gripping Tommy's shoulders. "I know, kid. I know. We're getting her back." The police said foster care. "Over my dead body." Marcus pulled Tommy into a fierce hug. "You're not going anywhere. Neither is your mom. You understand me? We're family now. All of us." Tommy buried his face in Marcus's shoulder and finally let himself cry. Not the quiet crying he'd learned on the streets, but the full-body sobs of a 7-year-old who'd been too brave for too long. Behind Marcus, 943 bikers watched. Hard men. Dangerous men. Men who'd seen and done things most people couldn't imagine. And every single one of them felt their throat tighten. Ray stepped forward. "Kid, what's your name?" Tommy lifted his head. "Tommy Chen." "Well, Tommy Chen, I'm Ray Martinez. I'm the president of the Portland Hells Angels." Ray held out his hand. "You saved one of our brothers. That makes you one of ours." "You got me." Tommy took Ray's hand with his small one. "Yes, sir." "Good." Ray looked at Marcus. "Let's go get his mother." The convoy reformed. But this time, Tommy rode with Marcus sitting in front of him on the bike, Marcus's arms around him, keeping him safe. They rolled toward Emmanuel Hospital, 943 strong, with a 7-year-old boy at their center. A boy who'd given a blanket to a stranger and received an army in return. The hospital had never seen anything like it. Security tried to stop them at the entrance, failed spectacularly when faced with nearly 1,000 bikers who very politely insisted they were there to help. Marcus walked through the main doors with Tommy's hand in his, Ray on his other side, and a river of leather and patches flowing behind them. They found Sarah's room on the 4th floor. She was a sleeper in her arm oxygen mask over her face. But she was alive. Tommy ran to her bedside. "Mama!" Sarah's eyes fluttered open. She saw Tommy and relief flooded her face. Then she saw Marcus. Then she saw the army of bikers filling the hallway outside her room. "What?" Her voice was hoarse. "Marcus, I promised 3 days," Marcus said quietly. "I'm a little early." "I can see that." Sarah looked at the hundreds of faces staring back at her. "Did you bring friends?" "About 1,000 of them, give or take." Sarah started to laugh, then coughed instead. When she could breathe again, tears were running down her face. "I thought I'd never see Tommy again," she whispered. "CPS said..." "They were wrong," Ray interrupted gently. "Your boy's not going anywhere. Neither are you." "But I can't pay for this." Sarah gestured weakly at the hospital room. "I can't afford..." "Already taken care of," Marcus said. "The brothers are covering it, all of it." "I don't understand." Tommy climbed onto the bed beside his mother, careful of the IV. "Mama, they came, all of them, just like Marcus promised." Sarah looked at her son, at Marcus, at the sea of bikers outside her door. "Why?" "Because you raised a boy who saved my life," Marcus said simply. "Because kindness deserves kindness. Because that's what family does." "But we're not your family." Ray smiled. "Yeah, you are. You just didn't know it yet." A hospital administrator appeared nervous, flanked by security. "I'm sorry, but you can't all be here. You're disrupting..." "We'll leave," Ray said pleasantly. "As soon as Mrs. Chen's medical bills are settled and we get confirmation that no one's trying to separate her from her son." "That's not how this works." "Sure it is." Ray's smile didn't waver, but his eyes went hard. "Because we've got lawyers too, and press, and about 1,000 witnesses who'll testify that this woman and her boy need to stay together." The administrator looked at the army of bikers at the cameras that were already appearing as word spread at the nightmare PR situation unfolding in his hospital. "I'll see what I can do," he said weakly. "You do that," Ray said. We'll wait." They didn't have to wait long. Within an hour, a different administrator appeared, this one much more senior, with a stack of papers. "Mrs. Chen, your medical expenses have been covered by an anonymous donor. All of them. And we've been contacted by several social workers who've confirmed that there's no reason to separate you from your son." Sarah stared. "Anonymous donor?" The administrator glanced at Ray. "Very anonymous. Insistent on their anonymity, actually." "Thank you," Sarah whispered. "There's more," the administrator continued. "A local organization has offered you temporary housing upon your discharge. Fully furnished apartment, 3 months paid with services to help you get back on your feet." "What organization?" "It's new," the administrator said carefully. "Very new. I believe it was founded this morning." Marcus and Ray exchanged glances. Someone had moved fast, very fast. "Who do I thank?" Sarah asked. "Us," Ray said simply. "All of us. And every brother who rode here because of what your son did." Sarah closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were full of tears. "I don't know what to say." "Say you'll get better," Marcus told her. "Say you'll let us help. Say you won't give up." "I won't," Sarah promised. "We won't." Tommy hugged his mother tighter. "We're gonna be okay, Mama. We've got family now." And outside in the hallway, 943 bikers stood guard, making sure that promise came true. The news crews arrived within 20 minutes of the bikers. Marcus saw them setting up in the hospital parking lot, cameras pointed at the endless rows of motorcycles, reporters scrambling to understand what was happening. He caught Ray's eye and jerked his head toward the window. "We've got company." Ray looked down at the growing media circus and smiled grimly. "Good. Let them see this. Let the whole damn world see what happens when you show kindness to a Hell's Angel. Ray, if this goes national, then it goes national. You started this, brother. Now we finish it right." Ray turned to the crowd of bikers filling the hallway. "Listen up. Press is here. Nobody talks to them without my say-so. We're not here for publicity. We're here for that kid and his mother. Everyone clear?" A chorus of agreement rumbled through the hallway. Tommy looked up from his mother's bedside, his eyes wide. "Are we in trouble?" "No, kid," Marcus said, crouching down beside him. "Just the opposite. People are going to want to hear your story. They're going to want to know about the boy who saved a biker's life." "I don't want to be on TV," Tommy said quietly. "I just wanted you to be okay." Sarah squeezed her son's hand. "You don't have to do anything you don't want to do, baby." But even as she said it, Sarah knew the choice might not be theirs anymore. The story was already out there, spreading through social media like wildfire. Someone had filmed the convoy rolling through Portland. The footage showed nearly 1,000 motorcycles moving in formation, and in the front, barely visible, a small boy riding with Marcus. The caption read, "Homeless boy saves Hell's Angel's life. This is what happened next." It already had 2 million views. A hospital social worker appeared at the door, nervous but determined. "Mrs. Chen, I'm Rebecca Torres. I need to ask you some questions about Tommy's living situation." Sarah's grip on Tommy tightened. "No, you're not taking him." "I'm not here to take anyone," Rebecca said quickly. "I'm here to help, but I need to document his current situation for the court." "What court?" Marcus demanded. "Child Protective Services filed an emergency petition this morning. There's a hearing scheduled for tomorrow to determine temporary custody." The hallway went dead silent. Every biker turned to look at Rebecca with expressions that made her take a step back. "Over my dead body," Ray said quietly. Dangerous quiet. "I understand your feelings, but this is the law." "Then the law's wrong." Ray moved to stand beside Sarah's bed. "That boy's staying with his mother. End of discussion." "Mr. Martinez, I sympathize, but the state has concerns. Mrs. Chen has been homeless with her son for nearly 2 years. She has no stable housing, no income, no support system." "She has us," Marcus interrupted. "That's a support system." Rebecca looked at the army of bikers and something like desperation crossed her face. "Look, I get it. This is a beautiful gesture, but the court needs more than gestures. They need proof of stability, housing, income, a plan for Tommy's education and medical care. Fine, Ray said. Give us 24 hours. We'll have all of it. You can't just watch us. Ray pulled out his phone and started making calls right there in the hospital room. Jake, I need you at the clubhouse. Get me the name of that lawyer we used last year. Yeah, the good one. Tell him it's urgent. Money's no object. He hung up and made another call. Sheila Ray Martinez, I need a favor. You still running that transitional housing program? I've got a mother and son who need a place starting tomorrow. No, not temporary. I need something that'll satisfy a judge. Yeah, I owe you one. Another call. This is Ray Martinez. I need to speak to Principal Hendricks at Roosevelt Elementary. Tell him it's about enrolling a new student. A special case. I'll be there in person within the hour. He kept calling. Each conversation was short, direct, and resulted in someone promising to help. Marcus watched in amazement as Ray systematically dismantled every objection the court might have. Rebecca looked stunned. You're serious about this? Dead serious. Ray fixed her with a hard stare. That boy saved one of our brothers. In our world, that makes him family. We take care of family. Always. But the hearing is tomorrow. Then, we'll be ready tomorrow. You want stability. We'll show them stability. You want a support system. We'll show them 1,000 men who'd die before letting that kid go into foster care. Ray stepped closer to Rebecca. Now here's what you're going to do. You're going to write in your report that Tommy Chen has a strong support network in place. You're going to recommend he stay with his mother. And you're going to tell CPS that if they try to separate this family, they'll have the fight of their lives on their hands. Rebecca opened her mouth, closed it, then nodded slowly. I'll do what I can. You'll do more than that, Ray said. You'll do what's right. After Rebecca left, Sarah started crying. Not quiet tears, but deep, wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. Hey, Marcus said gently. It's okay. We've got this. You don't understand, Sarah gasped. I've been fighting for 2 years to keep him. 2 years of running from CPS, of hiding, of being terrified every time I saw a police car. And you did in 30 minutes what I couldn't do in 2 years. That's because you were alone, Ray said. You're not alone anymore. Tommy climbed fully onto the bed and wrapped his arms around his mother. See, Mama, I told you. We've got family now. Sarah held her son and cried harder, but this time Marcus recognized the tears for what they were. Not fear, not desperation. Relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. The hospital administrator returned an hour later with more news. Mrs. Chen, I've been authorized to inform you that your stay here is fully covered. Additionally, we're going to keep you for observation for 3 days to make sure the pneumonia is completely resolved. 3 days. Sarah's voice cracked. What about Tommy? Where will he? He stays with me, Marcus said immediately, if that's okay with you. Sarah looked at this man she'd known for barely 48 hours. This dangerous man with gang colors and a reputation. This man who'd just mobilized an army for her son. You'd do that? Sarah, your kid saved my life. I'd walk through fire for him. Marcus looked at Tommy. What do you say, buddy? Want to stay at the clubhouse for a few days? Tommy's eyes went wide. Really? Really? We've got a spare room. Nothing fancy, but it's warm and safe. And I promise your mom no one's going to hurt you. Not while I'm breathing. Sarah wanted to say no. Every protective instinct screamed at her to keep Tommy close. But she was exhausted, sick, and drowning in medical needs. And more than that, she could see the way Marcus looked at her son. Like Tommy mattered. Like he was worth protecting. Okay, she whispered. But Tommy, you call me every night, twice a day if you can. I will, Mama, I promise. Marcus stood. Ray, can you stay here with Sarah? Make sure no one bothers her. Already planned on it, Ray said. He pulled a chair up beside Sarah's bed and settled in like he was planning to stay forever. Mrs. Chen and I are going to have a nice long talk about her future, and anyone who wants to mess with that future has to go through me first. Sarah looked at Ray, this grizzled, dangerous-looking man who'd appointed himself her guardian, and felt something crack open in her chest. Hope. Real hope for the first time in 2 years. Marcus took Tommy's hand. "Come on, kid. Let's go see your new temporary home." They walked out through the hallway of bikers, and every single one of them reached out to touch Tommy's shoulder or ruffle his hair as he passed. Little gestures of acceptance, of family. Outside, the press was waiting. Cameras flashed. Microphones appeared. "Mr. Sullivan, is it true a homeless boy saved your life?" "Marcus, what made you organize this convoy? How many bikers are here? What's the boy's name?" Marcus held up his hand and the questions stopped. He looked at the cameras, at the reporters, at the thousands of people who would see this footage. "Yeah, it's true. A 7-year-old homeless kid named Tommy Chen saved my life by giving me his only blanket in freezing weather. He had nothing and gave me everything. So I came back with my brothers to return the favor. That's what family does. That's what honor means. And if anyone out there sees a kid like Tommy, a mother like Sarah, someone who needs help, don't look away. Don't assume someone else will handle it. Be the person who steps up, because that's how we change the world. One blanket at a time." He picked Tommy up and carried him to his bike. Behind them, 943 engines roared to life. The convoy rolled out, heading to the clubhouse with Tommy Chen riding in the front, waving at the cameras like he'd been born to it. The footage went viral immediately. By that afternoon, it had 20 million views. By evening, it was international news. The clubhouse was chaos when they arrived. Bikers from dozens of chapters were still there, along with donations that had started pouring in. Blankets, clothes, food money. A local business owner had dropped off 300 winter coats. A church group brought toys. A restaurant sent enough food to feed an army. "What is all this?" Tommy breathed. "This is what happens when people see kindness," Marcus said. "They want to be part of it. They want to help." A woman approached, middle-aged with kind eyes. "Are you Tommy?" Tommy nodded. "I'm Diane Foster. I run a youth center downtown. I saw what you did on the news." She held out a bag. "I brought you some clothes. Age 7, right?" "Yes, ma'am." "And I brought something else." Diane pulled out a small leather jacket, child-sized, with no patches. "I thought you might want your own, so you don't have to borrow Mr. Sullivan's anymore." Tommy looked at the jacket, then at Marcus, his eyes shining. "Can I really have it?" "It's yours, kid," Marcus said, his throat tight. Tommy put on the jacket. It fit perfectly. He turned in a circle, grinning so wide his face might split. "I look like you." "Yeah, you do," Marcus said. "Come on, let me show you where you'll sleep." The spare room was small but clean. Someone had already put fresh sheets on the bed and stocked the dresser with the clothes Diane had brought. On the nightstand was a framed photo of Marcus and his bike. "This is your room for now," Marcus said. "Bathrooms across the hall. If you need anything at night, my room's right next door. You just knock, okay?" "Okay." Tommy sat on the bed, testing it. "Marcus, are you scared of the court?" Marcus sat beside him. "Honestly, a little, but I'm more determined than scared, and so are about 1,000 other brothers. What if they take me anyway? They won't. But what if... Tommy, look at me." Marcus waited until the boy met his eyes. "I made you a promise. I came back, didn't I?" "Yes. And I'm making you another promise right now. You and your mom are staying together, whatever it takes, however long it takes. You believe me?" Tommy studied Marcus's face for a long moment, then nodded. "I believe you." "Good. Now you hungry?" They ate dinner in the main room with 30 other bikers. Tommy sat between Marcus and a huge man called Tiny, who was anything but tiny. Tiny had a gray beard down to his chest and arms covered in tattoos. But when Tommy asked about them, Tiny spent 20 minutes telling stories that made the boy laugh until his sides hurt. "You got a kid?" Tommy asked Tiny. "Had one," Tiny said quietly. "Lost him in a car accident 10 years ago. He was about your age." The room went silent. Tommy looked at Tiny's face and saw the pain there, old but still sharp. "I'm sorry," Tommy said. "Me too, kid. Me too." Tiny ruffled Tommy's hair. "But you know what helping you helps me. Makes me feel like maybe I can still be a dad to someone, even if it's not my boy." Tommy didn't fully understand, but he leaned against Tiny's side anyway, and the big man's arm came around him gentle and protective. That night, Marcus tucked Tommy into bed. The boy was exhausted, barely able to keep his eyes open. "Marcus," Tommy mumbled. "Thank you. For everything. You saved my life, remember? This is just payback." "No," Tommy said. "It's more than that. You made me feel like I matter." Marcus felt his chest tighten. "You do matter, kid, more than you know. Will you teach me to ride a motorcycle someday?" Marcus laughed. "Ask your mom when she's better. But yeah, I'll teach you. When you're old enough. Promise. Promise." Tommy's eyes closed. Within seconds, he was asleep. Marcus stood there for a long time watching this kid who'd stumbled into his life and changed everything. Then he went back to the main room where Ray was waiting. "Kid, okay?" Ray asked. "Better than okay. Ray, about tomorrow." "Already handled. Lawyers meeting us at the courthouse at 8. Housing is confirmed. School enrollment paperwork is ready. We've got character witnesses lined up. Half the state's bikers have offered to attend the hearing." "That might be too much," Marcus said. "Maybe, but I'd rather overwhelm them with support than give them any reason to doubt." Ray leaned back. "Marcus, this story's everywhere. National news. International news. People are calling Tommy a hero. Calling us heroes. There's already a GoFundMe for Sarah that's raised over $100,000. 100, Marcus couldn't finish. And climbing. People want to help. They're inspired. One kid's kindness started something we can't control anymore. Is that good or bad? It's both, Ray said honestly. It's good because Tommy and Sarah will be taken care of. It's bad because now there's pressure. Expectations. The world's watching to see how this ends. Then we better make sure it ends right. The next morning they arrived at the courthouse with an army. Not 1,000 bikers. Ray had limited it to 50, the maximum that could fit in the courtroom. But 50 was more than enough. 50 bikers in full patches sitting in respectful silence sent a clear message. This family is protected. Sarah arrived in a wheelchair, still weak but determined to be there. Tommy sat between her and Marcus, wearing his new leather jacket, gripping his mother's hand. The CPS lawyer stood up first. Your Honor, the state's position is simple. Mrs. Chen has been homeless with her minor son for nearly 2 years. She has no stable housing, no employment, no support system. While we recognize the generosity shown by these individuals, we question whether it's sustainable. The state recommends temporary foster care while Mrs. Chen works to establish stability. Sarah's hand tightened on Tommy's. The boy didn't make a sound, but Marcus could feel him trembling. Their lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Catherine Wells, stood. Your Honor, may I present evidence of Mrs. Chen's current situation? She laid out document after document. A signed lease for a 2-bedroom apartment paid for 6 months. A job offer from a medical billing company willing to work with Sarah's health needs. Letters of support from 53 individuals, including business owners, community leaders, and yes, members of the Hells Angels MC. School enrollment forms for Roosevelt Elementary already approved. Mrs. Chen now has stable housing, imminent employment, and a support network of over 1,000 individuals who have pledged to help her and her son. This is not a temporary gesture, Your Honor. This is a community coming together to ensure this family stays together. The judge, an older woman with steel gray hair, studied the documents. She looked at Sarah, at Tommy, at the 50 bikers sitting silent and watchful in her courtroom. Mrs. Chen, can you stand? Sarah struggled to her feet, Marcus immediately there to support her. Tell me what happened, the judge said. In your own words. Why were you homeless with your son? Sarah took a shaky breath. I got sick, Your Honor. Chronic illness that insurance wouldn't fully cover. I lost my job, then my apartment. I tried to get help, but I fell through every crack in the system. So I did what I had to do to keep Tommy safe. I kept him fed, kept him clean, made sure he got to the library to read and learn. I never asked for handouts. I just tried to survive. And the night you gave your blanket to Mr. Sullivan, that was Tommy's decision, Sarah said. I told him no. I told him we needed it. But my son, her voice broke. My son is a better person than I am. He couldn't watch someone die, even when it meant risking his own life. The judge turned to Tommy. Young man, do you understand what could have happened if you'd frozen to death? Tommy nodded. Yes, ma'am. But Marcus was dying. I had to help. Why? Tommy thought about it, his face serious. Because if I can help and I don't, then what kind of person am I? My mama taught me that. She's always helping people even when we don't have nothing. She's the bravest person I know. The judge's expression softened. She looked back at the documents, then at the bikers filling her courtroom. Mr. Martinez, you're the president of the Portland Hells Angels. Ray stood. Yes, Your Honor. This support you're offering, is it genuine or is this a publicity stunt? Ray met her eyes dead on. Your Honor, my club has been around for 70 years. We've seen every kind of trouble there is. But we've also seen every kind of loyalty, every kind of brotherhood. What Tommy did, giving his blanket to Marcus, that's the kind of act that defines what we're supposed to be. It reminded us why we wear these patches. So no, this isn't a stunt. This is us living up to our code. Family first. Loyalty forever. That kid's family now. So is his mother. And we don't abandon family. The courtroom was dead silent. The judge took off her glasses and rubbed her eyes. In 30 years on the bench, I've never seen anything like this. She looked at the CPS lawyer. The state's concerns are noted, but they're also irrelevant. Mrs. Chen now has everything the state wanted her to have. Housing, employment, support. More support than most families ever see. She looked at Sarah. Mrs. Chen, I'm denying the petition for removal. Tommy stays with you, but I'm also ordering quarterly check-ins for the next year to ensure stability continues. Understood. Sarah collapsed back into the wheelchair, sobbing. Thank you. Thank you so much. The judge smiled. Thank your son, and Mr. Sullivan, and apparently half the motorcycle clubs in the Pacific Northwest. She banged her gavel. Case dismissed. The courtroom erupted. Bikers were hugging each other, some crying openly. Marcus picked Tommy up and spun him around while the boy laughed and screamed with joy. Ray approached the bench. Your Honor, thank you. Don't thank me. You did this, all of you. The judge hesitated. Mr. Martinez, I've presided over a lot of cases involving your club, usually not so pleasant. This was something different. People see the patches and the bikes and think they know us, Ray said, but we're more than our reputation. We're men who believe in loyalty, in honor, in protecting those who can't protect themselves. That's always been true. People just don't usually notice. I notice now, the judge said quietly. I notice now. Outside the courthouse, the press was waiting again, but this time Ray let Sarah speak. She stood still, weak but steady, with Marcus supporting her on one side and Tommy holding her hand on the other. I want to thank everyone who helped us. Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper, but carrying in the silence. 2 days ago, I thought I'd lost everything. I thought they'd take my son. I thought we'd never be a family again. But then these men, these supposedly dangerous men, they showed me what real family means. They showed me that kindness isn't dead, that people still care. She looked at Marcus. Thank you for keeping your promise. Thank you for raising a kid who saved my life, Marcus said simply. Tommy raised his hand, still holding Marcus's patch. Can I say something? Marcus lifted him up so he could see the cameras. I just wanted to say, Tommy's voice was small but clear. If you see someone who needs help, you should help them. Even if it's hard, even if it's scary. Because that's what makes us good people. That's what my mama taught me. And now Marcus and all his friends taught me that when you help someone, sometimes they help you back. Sometimes they bring 1,000 friends and make everything better. Someone in the crowd started clapping, then another, then everyone. The applause rolled through the street like thunder, and Tommy buried his face in Marcus's shoulder, overwhelmed. But he was smiling. They both were. That night back at the clubhouse, there was a celebration. Food and music and laughter that echoed through the building. Tommy fell asleep on Marcus's lap, halfway through exhausted, but happy. Sarah, released from the hospital against medical advice but with strict instructions to rest, sat beside them. "I don't know how to repay you," she said. "You already did," Marcus said. "You raised a kid who reminded me what being human means. That's payment enough. But all these people, all this help, is because they wanted to. Because Tommy's story touched something in them. Because people are fundamentally good, Sarah. They just need to be reminded sometimes." Sarah looked at her sleeping son, then at the room full of bikers celebrating this small victory. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now you heal. You move into your apartment, you start your job, you let Tommy go to school and be a kid." Marcus looked down at the boy. "And we stay family, because that's what we are now, whether you like it or not." Sarah laughed, tears streaming down her face. "I like it. God help me, I like it." The celebration continued around them, but in that small corner of the clubhouse, Sarah and Marcus and Tommy were in their own world. A world where a blanket had saved a life, and a life had saved a family, and a family had reminded 1,000 men what honor really meant. It was just the beginning, but it was enough. For now, it was more than enough. The apartment was on the 3rd floor of a converted warehouse in southeast Portland. Sarah stood at the door with the key in her hand, unable to make herself turn it. "Mama." Tommy tugged on her sleeve. "Aren't we going in?" "I'm scared," Sarah whispered. Marcus, who'd driven them there with half a dozen brothers following behind with donated furniture, put his hand on her shoulder. "Of what?" "That this isn't real. That I'll wake up under the bridge again. That someone will realize they made a mistake and take it all away." "Sarah, look at me." Marcus waited until she met his eyes. "This is real. The lease has your name on it. The rent's paid for 6 months. No one's taking this away. You earned this." "I didn't earn anything. I've been homeless for 2 years. You kept your son alive and kind in a world that tried to break you both. You taught him to help a stranger even when you had nothing. That's earning it, Sarah. That's earning everything." Sarah's hand shook as she turned the key. The door opened to reveal 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen, a living room with windows that let in actual sunlight. It was furnished simply donations from various brothers and their families, but it was clean and warm and theirs. Tommy ran inside, his footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. Mama, look, I have my own room." Sarah walked in slowly, touching the kitchen counter like it might disappear. The refrigerator hummed. The faucet worked. There was a table with 4 chairs, a couch that wasn't torn or stained, curtains on the windows. "There's food in the fridge," Marcus said. "Basic stuff, milk, eggs, bread, and the pantry's stocked. Should last you a couple weeks." "Marcus, it's from everyone. People wanted to help." He pulled an envelope from his jacket. "This is from the GoFundMe. It's up to $230,000 now." Sarah's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the couch, the envelope falling from her fingers. 200, that's not possible. It's very possible. People saw Tommy's story and wanted to be part of it. This money is yours. For bills, for savings, for Tommy's education. For whatever you need. I can't accept this. You already did. It's in an account in your name. Catherine Wells set it up. She's handling everything pro bono. Marcus sat beside her. "Sarah, let people help, please." Sarah picked up the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a bank card and a statement. The number was real. All of it was real. She started crying, and once she started, she couldn't stop. Marcus just sat there solid and steady while she fell apart. Tommy came running back. "Mama, why are you crying?" "I'm okay, baby. I'm just..." Sarah pulled him close. "We're going to be okay. Really okay." "I told you," Tommy said. "We got family now." The brothers who'd followed them started bringing in furniture. A bed frame for Sarah, a smaller one for Tommy. Dressers, lamps, kitchen supplies. Within 2 hours, the apartment looked like people actually lived there. Tiny showed up with bags of groceries. "Figured you'd need more than basics. Got some good stuff. Real food, not shelter food." A woman Marcus introduced as his sister Elena brought cleaning supplies and towels. "Welcome to the neighborhood. If you need anything, I'm 2 blocks over. Here's my number." By evening, the apartment was full of people Sarah didn't know, but who treated her like family. They brought gifts, shared stories, made sure Sarah and Tommy had everything they could possibly need. When everyone finally left, Sarah and Tommy stood alone in their new home. "Is this really ours?" Tommy asked. "Yeah, baby. This is really ours." That night, Tommy slept in an actual bed for the first time in 2 years. Sarah checked on him 3 times before midnight, still unable to believe he was safe, warm, and theirs to keep. She called Marcus at 1 in the morning. "I'm sorry to bother you. You're not bothering me. What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. That's the problem. I keep waiting for something to go wrong." Marcus's voice was gentle. "Sarah, you've been in survival mode for so long you forgot what living feels like. It's going to take time to adjust. That's okay. That's normal. What if I mess this up?" "You won't. And even if you stumble, you've got 1,000 people ready to catch you, including me." "Why are you doing this? Really?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Because 15 years ago, I was in a dark place. My brother had just died in a motorcycle accident. I was angry and lost and about 2 inches from doing something stupid. A stranger, some old man at a diner, saw me sitting there with a gun in my jacket. He sat down, bought me coffee, and talked to me for 3 hours. Never asked my name, never judged. Just listened and reminded me that pain doesn't last forever. He saved my life that night, and I never got to thank him. When Tommy gave me that blanket, I saw that old man again. I saw the chance to pay forward what was given to me. Does that make sense?" "Yeah," Sarah whispered. "Yeah, it does." "Get some sleep, Sarah. Tomorrow's the start of your new life. Don't waste it worrying." But sleep didn't come easy. Sarah lay in her new bed in her new home and tried to remember who she'd been before the streets, before the fear, before she'd learned that the world could be cruel. She was going to have to relearn how to trust that good things could last. The next morning, Tommy started school. Roosevelt Elementary was 3 blocks away, close enough to walk. Marcus showed up at 7 to walk with them, just for the first day. Tommy wore new clothes, jeans, a sweater, sneakers that actually fit, and carried a backpack filled with supplies. He looked like any other 7-year-old heading to school, but Sarah could see the nervousness in his eyes. "What if the other kids don't like me?" Tommy asked. "They'll like you," Sarah promised. "What if they find out I was homeless?" Marcus knelt down. "Then they find out. You're not ashamed of surviving, are you?" "No, but no buts. You did nothing wrong. You and your mom fought to stay together, and that's something to be proud of. Anyone who judges you for that isn't worth knowing." The principal, Mrs. Hendricks, met them at the door. She was a small black woman with kind eyes and a firm handshake. "You must be Tommy. We've been expecting you." She looked at Marcus and didn't flinch at his patches. "Mr. Sullivan, thank you for calling ahead. We've arranged for Tommy to have lunch assistance and access to our counselor if needed." "I don't need a counselor," Tommy said quickly. "It's just there if you want to talk," Mrs. Hendricks said gently. "No pressure. Now let me show you to your classroom. Your teacher is Miss Patricia. She's wonderful." Sarah's hands tightened on Tommy's shoulders. "Baby, you sure you're ready for this?" "I'm ready, Mama." Tommy looked up at her and his eyes were determined. "I want to learn. I want to be normal." Normal. Such a simple word. Such an impossible dream for so long. Sarah watched her son walk down the hallway with Mrs. Hendricks, his new backpack bouncing with each step. He looked back once, waved, then disappeared into a classroom. Sarah started crying again. "He's going to be fine," Marcus said. "I know. That's why I'm crying. He gets to be a kid again. He gets to just be 7 years old." Marcus drove Sarah to her first day at the medical billing company. It was a small office with 12 employees, and the manager, Carol, greeted Sarah with a hug. "We're so glad to have you. I saw your story on the news. What your son did, that was incredible." "Thank you," Sarah said, uncomfortable with the attention. "We'll start you slow. Part-time hours until you're fully recovered from the pneumonia. Health insurance kicks in after 30 days. And if you need time off for Tommy doctor's appointments, school events, whatever, just let me know. We're flexible here." Sarah felt tears threatening again. I don't know what to say. Say you'll do good work. That's all I need. The training was intense but manageable. Sarah's brain, unused to this kind of focus after 2 years of just surviving, struggled at first. But slowly muscle memory kicked in. She'd done this kind of work before. She could do it again. At lunch, she called Tommy's school. Mrs. Hendricks assured her Tommy was doing fine, making friends, participating in class. Sarah hung up and cried in the bathroom for 5 minutes. When she composed herself and came out, Carol was waiting. You okay? I'm better than okay. This is the first normal day I've had in 2 years. It's overwhelming. Take it 1 hour at a time, Carol said. That's all any of us can do. That became Sarah's mantra. 1 hour at a time. 1 day at a time. One small victory at a time. Tommy thrived at school. Within a week, he had 3 best friends. Within 2 weeks, he was invited to his first birthday party. Sarah bought a gift with money from the GoFundMe account and cried when Tommy came home with cake on his face and stories about playing video games. Mama, can my friends come over sometime? Yeah, baby, anytime you want. That Saturday, 3 boys descended on their apartment like a small hurricane. Sarah made sandwiches and listened to them laugh and argue about which superhero was best, and something inside her chest unknotted. This was what childhood was supposed to be. This was what she'd been fighting for. Marcus stopped by that evening after the friends had gone home. How'd it go? It was perfect, absolutely perfect. Sarah poured him coffee. Marcus, I got my first paycheck today. That's great. It's not much, but it's mine. I earned it. She looked at him. For the first time in 2 years, I'm not just surviving. I'm living. You deserve this, Sarah. You always did. I want to do something, Sarah said suddenly. Something for the people still under that bridge, the ones who helped us, the ones who are still out there. What are you thinking? I don't know yet, but I have to give back. I have to help the way you helped me. Marcus smiled. Let me make some calls. We'll figure it out together. 2 weeks later, they organized a supply drive. Sarah, Marcus, Ray, and a dozen other bikers showed up under the bridge with blankets, food, warm clothes, and information about services. The people there remembered Sarah and Tommy. They'd seen the news coverage. Some were happy for them, others were bitter. Must be nice, one man said, getting rescued by bikers. Some of us aren't that lucky. Sarah met his eyes. You're right. I got lucky. But luck isn't magic. It started because Tommy helped someone. Because he showed kindness even when we had nothing. You want help? Start by helping others. That's how communities form. That's how change happens. Easy for you to say now that you're off the streets. Nothing about this was easy, Sarah said quietly. And I'm not here to lecture you. I'm here to offer what I can. Take it or don't. But I'm coming back next week, and the week after that, because someone helped me and now I help you. That's how this works. She distributed supplies until they ran out. Some people thanked her, some walked away. But a few looked at her with something like hope. One woman with 2 small children approached. Is it true what they said on the news that your son gave his blanket to a stranger? Every word. Why would he do that? Sarah looked at the woman's children, dirty and thin and scared. Because he was raised to see people, not problems. Because I taught him that we're all one bad day away from needing help. Because kindness costs nothing but means everything. The woman started crying. I have kids. I can't keep them warm. CPS is looking for me. I don't know what to do. Sarah took her hand. What's your name? Jennifer. Jennifer, I'm going to give you my number. And the number of a social worker who helped me. Her name is Rebecca Torres. She's good people. She'll fight for you to keep your kids. But you have to let her help. You can't run forever. They'll take my babies. Not if you have support. Not if you have housing and a plan. Sarah squeezed her hand. I was where you are 2 weeks ago. Now I have an apartment and a job. You can have that too. But you have to reach out. You have to accept help. Jennifer looked at the numbers Sarah wrote down. What if it doesn't work? Then we try something else. But giving up isn't an option. Not when you have kids counting on you. Marcus watched this exchange and felt pride swell in his chest. Sarah had been transformed by kindness, and now she was transforming others. The ripple effect was real. As they drove away, Sarah was quiet. "You okay?" Marcus asked. "I was thinking about that night, when Tommy gave you the blanket. I told him no. I tried to stop him. You were protecting your son. I was protecting us from ourselves, from our own humanity." Sarah looked at him. "Tommy was braver than me. He still is. He reminds me every day that being poor doesn't mean being small, that having nothing doesn't mean being nothing. He learned that from you. Maybe, but he taught it back to me when I'd forgotten." That night, Sarah tucked Tommy into bed in his room in their apartment in their home. "Mama, am I still going to see Marcus?" "Of course." "Why?" "Because we're not homeless anymore. Maybe he doesn't need to check on us." Sarah smoothed his hair. "Baby Marcus isn't here because we need him. He's here because we're family. That doesn't change just because our circumstances changed. Promise. Promise." But Tommy's question haunted Sarah. She called Marcus the next day. "Do you feel obligated to us, like you have to keep helping because you started this?" "No," Marcus said without hesitation. "I keep helping because I want to, because you and Tommy matter to me. Not as a debt to repay, but as people I care about." "We're not your responsibility, Marcus. You're my family, Sarah. There's a difference. But you have your own life, and you're part of it now. You and Tommy both. I'm not going anywhere unless you want me to." Sarah felt relief wash through her. "I don't want you to go anywhere." "Good, because Tommy's birthday is next month and I've already planned something." "Marcus, you don't have to." "I want to. Let me spoil the kid a little. He's earned it." Tommy's 8th birthday was unlike anything Sarah could have imagined. Marcus organized a party at the clubhouse with 30 kids from Tommy's school, their parents and about 50 bikers who all wore party hats and played games with the children like they did this every day. There was a bounce house, a magician, a cake shaped like a motorcycle, and presents, so many presents Sarah almost said it was too much. But seeing Tommy's face, seeing him surrounded by friends and family laughing and playing like any normal 8-year-old, she couldn't bring herself to object. "Make a wish," everyone said as Tommy leaned over the cake. Tommy closed his eyes, thought hard, then blew out the candles in one breath. Everyone cheered. Later, Sarah asked him what he wished for. "I can't tell you, or it won't come true," Tommy said. "Not even a hint." Tommy looked around at the party at Marcus teaching his friends about motorcycles at Ray, showing someone how to arm wrestle at all these people who'd come together for him. "I wish that everyone could have what we have," Tommy said. "That everyone who's cold could get warm. That everyone who's scared could feel safe. That everyone who's alone could find family." Sarah pulled him close, her heart breaking and healing at the same time. "That's a good wish, baby. The best wish. Will it come true?" "I don't know, but we can try to make it come true, a little bit at a time." That became their mission. Every Saturday they returned to the bridge, sometimes with Marcus and the brothers, sometimes alone. They brought supplies, made connections, helped people navigate the system that had failed Sarah so spectacularly. It was slow work, frustrating work. Not everyone wanted help. Not everyone could be saved. But every person they helped felt like a small victory. Jennifer, the woman with 2 kids, got into transitional housing. Rebecca Torres helped her navigate the system. Within 2 months, Jennifer had a job in her own apartment. She cried when she called Sarah to tell her. "You saved my life," Jennifer said. "No, you saved your own life. I just showed you the door. You walked through it." But Sarah knew the truth. She hadn't just shown Jennifer a door. She'd shown her that doors still existed, that escape was possible, that kindness wasn't dead. 3 months after the courthouse victory, Sarah received a letter from the city. The mayor wanted to meet her and Tommy, to honor them for their service to the homeless community. "This feels wrong," Sarah told Marcus. "We didn't do anything special." "You did everything special. You showed people that one person can make a difference. That's worth honoring." The ceremony was small, but meaningful. The mayor presented Tommy with a certificate of citizenship and Sarah with a community service award. But the real moment came when the mayor announced a new initiative. Inspired by Tommy Chen's act of kindness and the response it generated, the city is launching a new program. We're partnering with local motorcycle clubs to establish quarterly supply drives and outreach efforts to our homeless population. We're calling it the Blanket Initiative, because sometimes one blanket is all it takes to save a life. Sarah looked at Marcus, who was grinning. Did you know about this? Ray might have had some conversations with city officials, but the idea was all yours, Sarah. You started this. Tommy started it. You both did. And now it's bigger than either of you. After the ceremony, a reporter approached them. Mrs. Chen, how does it feel to go from homeless to a community leader in just a few months? Sarah thought about that question. Really thought about it. I'm the same person I was 3 months ago, she said finally. The only thing that changed was my circumstances. And those circumstances changed because someone showed me kindness. Because one person decided I was worth helping. That's the lesson here. Not that I'm special, but that everyone deserves that chance. Everyone deserves someone who sees them as worthy. The reporter scribbled notes. And Tommy, how has his life changed? Sarah looked at her son, who was showing his certificate to a group of bikers, all of them making a big deal about how official it looked. He gets to be a kid, Sarah said. That's the biggest change. He doesn't have to worry about where we'll sleep or what we'll eat. He can just be 8 years old. That's all I ever wanted for him. Do you have any advice for other families facing homelessness? Don't give up. Accept help when it's offered. And remember that your circumstances don't define your worth. You're still valuable. You still matter. You're still human. The article ran in the Portland Tribune the next day. It was picked up by national outlets. Within a week, Sarah was getting calls from other cities wanting to know how to implement similar programs. This is getting big, she told Marcus. Good. Let it get big. The more people who help, the more lives get saved. But I'm just one person who started a movement. That's how change happens, Sarah. One person does something brave. Others see it and do something brave too. Before you know it, you've got a revolution. 6 months after that night under the bridge, Sarah stood at the window of their apartment watching snow fall. Real snow, heavy and thick, blanketing the city in white. Tommy came to stand beside her. Are people going to be cold tonight? Probably, Sarah said honestly. We should help them. We will. Tomorrow, we're doing another supply drive, remember? No, I mean tonight, right now. Tommy looked up at her. We have extra blankets. We could take them out. Sarah's first instinct was to say no. It was late. It was freezing. They were safe and warm inside. But then she remembered a night not so different from this one. A night when Tommy had given away their only protection because someone needed it more. Get your coat, Sarah said. Let's go help. They called Marcus, who showed up with Ray and a dozen other brothers. They loaded trucks with blankets, food, and hot coffee. Then they drove through Portland, stopping at every overpass, every alley, every place where people might be trying to survive the cold. They handed out supplies until they ran out, talked to people, made connections, let them know they weren't forgotten. It was 3 in the morning when they finally got back to the apartment. Tommy was asleep on his feet. Sarah carried him to bed, tucked him in, and stood there, watching him breathe. Her son. Her brave, beautiful, impossible son, who'd saved a stranger and accidentally saved them both. Marcus appeared in the doorway. You okay? Better than okay. Sarah looked at him. Marcus, thank you. For everything. For keeping your promise. For giving us a chance. For showing Tommy that the world can be good. You gave me something too, Marcus said. You reminded me why I wear this patch, why brotherhood matters, why we fight for people who can't fight for themselves. He touched Tommy's sleeping head gently. This kid changed my life, Sarah, changed all our lives, and we're better for it. Sarah walked Marcus to the door. Will you come for dinner tomorrow? I'm cooking. I'll be here. Marcus paused. Sarah, you know you don't have to keep thanking us, right? This isn't a debt. This is just what family does. I know, but I'm going to keep thanking you anyway. Because gratitude matters. Because remembering where we came from matters. After Marcus left, Sarah stood at the window again, watching the snow fall on a city full of people who needed help. She couldn't save them all. No one could. But she could save some. One blanket at a time. One act of kindness at a time. One person at a time. Just like Tommy had saved Marcus. Just like Marcus had saved them. The ripple effect was real. And it was just beginning. 1 year. 365 days since that freezing night under the bridge. Sarah marked the anniversary by waking up in her own bed in her own home with her son safe in the next room. She'd been keeping track, couldn't help it. Every morning she woke up warm and secure, felt like a small miracle she needed to acknowledge. Tommy burst into her room at 6:30, already dressed. "Mama, come on, we're going to be late." "Late for what, baby? It's Saturday." The anniversary event, Marcus said everyone's meeting at the bridge at 8. "Don't you remember?" Sarah had forgotten. No, that was a lie. She'd been trying not to think about it. Going back to that bridge, to that place where they'd almost died, felt wrong somehow, like tempting fate. "Tommy, I'm not sure. Please, Mama. We have to go. This is important." Sarah looked at her son's face and couldn't say no. At 8 years old, Tommy had grown 3 inches and gained 15 pounds. He looked healthy now, happy. But his eyes still held that old wisdom, that understanding of suffering that no child should have. "Okay," she said. "Let me get ready." They arrived at the bridge at 7:45. Sarah wasn't prepared for what she saw. Hundreds of people were already there. Bikers, yes, at least 200 motorcycles lined the streets, but also families. City officials, news crews, and dozens of people Sarah recognized from the homeless community. Some faces she knew from their Saturday supply runs. Others were strangers. Marcus found them immediately. He'd aged this year too, but in a good way. The hard edges had softened. He smiled more. "Hey, you made it." He hugged Tommy, then Sarah. "How you feeling?" "Nervous," Sarah admitted. "I don't know why we're doing this." Because a year ago, something important happened here. Because people need to remember. Because hope needs celebrating. Marcus gestured to the crowd. "Come on, there are people who want to meet you." He led them to a small stage that had been set up. Ray was there along with the mayor, Rebecca Torres, and several others Sarah didn't recognize. "What is this?" Sarah asked. "This," Ray said, "is the first annual Blanket Day. A celebration of what your son started, what you continued, what became a movement." The mayor stepped forward. "Mrs. Chen, Tommy, we wanted to do something special for this anniversary, to honor what you both did and to show the impact it's had on our city." She gestured to someone off to the side. A large covered board was wheeled forward. Over the past year, the Blanket Initiative has helped 347 homeless individuals in Portland. 92 have found permanent housing. 115 have gained employment. 43 families have been reunited. And 12 people who would have died on the streets are alive today because of this program. The mayor pulled the cover off. It was a memorial board with photos and names. Sarah saw Jennifer and her 2 kids. Saw men and women she'd handed blankets to. Saw faces she'd talked to, helped connected with services. "These are the lives you've touched," the mayor said. "These are the people who are here today because one boy gave a blanket to a stranger." Sarah felt her knees go weak. Tommy grabbed her hand, and they stood there together staring at all those faces. "But that's not all," Ray said. "The Blanket Initiative has spread. Seattle started one 3 months ago. Sacramento has one, Eugene, Tacoma, Boise, Las Vegas. 17 cities across 7 states now have programs based on what happened here, based on what Tommy did. That's over 2,000 people helped," Marcus added. 2,000 lives changed because your son decided kindness mattered more than survival. Tommy looked up at his mother. "Did we really do that?" "You did that, baby. You started all of it." A woman stepped out of the crowd. She was young, maybe 25, holding a baby. "Tommy, Mrs. Chen, I'm Christina. You probably don't remember me." Sarah studied her face. Something familiar about the eyes. "The bridge," Sarah said suddenly. "You were living here last year, with your boyfriend." "My ex-boyfriend," Christina corrected. He left when things got hard. But I stayed. And I watched what happened with you and Marcus. Watched you come back every Saturday to help. 3 months ago, I finally got the courage to accept help. Rebecca got me into housing. I got clean, got my baby back from CPS. She held the infant closer. His name is Tommy. I named him after your son, because your Tommy showed me that good people still exist. Sarah started crying. Christina was crying. Tommy was trying not to cry and failing. Thank you, Christina whispered. Thank you for not giving up on people like me. More people came forward, each with a story. Each with a connection to that night or to the Saturdays that followed. Each life touched by one act of kindness that had rippled outward like a stone thrown in still water. An older man with a gray beard approached. Tommy, I'm Harold. I was one of the men who mocked you that night, who said no one was coming to save you. Tommy's eyes widened. I remember. I was wrong. So wrong. And watching what you started, watching how you changed this city, it changed me too. Harold's voice cracked. I've been sober 4 months now. I have a job. I'm rebuilding my life. Because you showed me that if an 8-year-old can be brave, so can I. Tommy hugged him. This strange old man who'd once been cruel. And Harold hugged him back, this child who'd proven him wrong about everything. Ray stepped up to the microphone. Before we start the main event, I want to say something. A year ago, my club got a reputation boost we didn't ask for. People called us heroes, said we'd changed. But the truth is, we didn't change. Tommy Chen just reminded us who we've always been. Brothers who protect the vulnerable. Men who honor loyalty. People who believe actions matter more than words. He looked at Tommy. Kid, come up here. Tommy climbed onto the stage, small but unafraid. Ray knelt down to his level. Tommy Chen, on behalf of every charter of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, I want to make something official. Ray pulled out a patch. Not a full member patch, but something special. It read, Honorary Brother, with the Hells Angels logo. You earned this the night you saved Marcus. You've earned it every day since. Will you accept it? Tommy looked at his mother. Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her face. Yes, sir, Tommy said. Ray pinned the patch to Tommy's jacket. Every biker present roared their approval. Engines revved. People cheered. Tommy stood there on that stage, an 8-year-old boy, wearing the respect of 1,000 dangerous men, and smiled. Marcus stepped forward next. There's something else. Tommy, Sarah, the brothers, and I have been working on something. A surprise. He gestured toward the bridge. A group of people pulled away a large tarp, revealing a newly installed plaque on the concrete pillar where Marcus had nearly died. Sarah walked closer to read it. On this spot, December 2nd, Tommy Chen, age 7, gave his only blanket to a freezing stranger. That act of selfless kindness sparked a movement that has helped thousands. Let this place remind us that one person's compassion can change the world. The coldest night can be defeated by the warmest heart. Below it was a metal box mounted to the pillar. Inside were emergency blankets, first aid supplies, and information about local services. We're installing these at every major underpass in Portland, Marcus explained. Free supplies for anyone who needs them. Maintained by volunteers. Funded by donations. It's called Tommy's Corner. Tommy touched the plaque with trembling fingers. This is really here forever. Forever, Marcus promised. So that everyone who comes here knows what happened. Knows what you did. Knows that hope is real. The ceremony continued with speeches, but Sarah barely heard them. She was lost in memories of that night. The cold, the fear, the impossible choice Tommy had made, the stranger who'd kept his promise. Sarah. Rebecca Torres touched her arm. Can I talk to you for a minute? They stepped away from the crowd. Rebecca looked nervous. What's wrong? Sarah asked. Nothing's wrong. Actually, something's very right. Sarah, I've been working with homeless families for 12 years. I've seen every program, every initiative, every attempt to solve this crisis. Most of them fail. You know why? Why? Because they treat homeless people like problems to be solved instead of humans to be helped. But what you've done, the way you go back every week, the way you listen and connect and treat people with dignity, that's the answer. That's how you actually change lives. I'm just doing what feels right. Exactly. And that's why I want to offer you a job. Sarah blinked. What? The city's creating a new position, homeless outreach coordinator. Someone who'll oversee the blanket initiative, train volunteers, work with other cities to expand the program. We want someone who understands homelessness from the inside. Someone who knows how to talk to people who've given up hope. Rebecca smiled. We want you, Sarah. Full-time position, city benefits, salary of $65,000 a year. Sarah's mind went blank. $65,000. You'd be perfect for this. You've already been doing the work. Now we want to pay you for it and give you the resources to do even more. I can't, you're just the woman who survived homelessness with her dignity intact, who raised a son who changed a city, who's been volunteering every Saturday for a year while working a full-time job because you care. Sarah, you're exactly who we need. Sarah looked across the crowd at Tommy, who was surrounded by bikers teaching him about motorcycles. Her son who'd been brave enough to save a stranger, who'd started a revolution without even trying. Can I think about it? Take all the time you need. But Sarah, say yes, because you're going to change more lives than you can imagine. Later, after the ceremony ended and the crowds dispersed, Sarah and Tommy sat on the curb under the bridge with Marcus and Ray. This is where it all started, Tommy said. This is where it all changed, Marcus corrected. There's a difference. What's the difference? Starting something means beginning. Changing something means making it better. You didn't just start kindness, kid. You changed how a whole city thinks about it. Tommy was quiet for a moment. Marcus, do you ever think about that night? Every day? Do you wish it never happened? Marcus looked at this boy who'd saved his life, at Sarah, who'd raised him, at the community that had formed around one act of compassion. No, I wish I'd been smarter about my bike maintenance so it never broke down. But I don't wish that night away, because it brought me to you. It brought me back to what matters. Ray. Tommy turned to the club president. Why did all the bikers come? Really? Ray considered the question seriously. Because we needed reminding, kid. We'd forgotten that strength isn't just about power. It's about protecting the weak. We'd forgotten that loyalty means caring for people who can't repay you. We'd gotten caught up in reputation and territory and all the bullshit that doesn't actually matter. You showed us what real brotherhood looks like. A kid with nothing giving everything to a stranger. That's the code we're supposed to live by. You just lived it better than we did. Are you still going to help people, even now that it's been a year? Kid, we're never stopping. This is who we are now, who we should have always been. Sarah's phone buzzed, a text from Carol at work. Saw the news coverage. So proud of you. Take Monday off. You've earned it. Another text, this one from Jennifer. Christina told me about her baby's name. I'm crying. Thank you for everything. Another from Elena, Marcus's sister. Dinner at my place next Sunday. Bringing the whole family. Your family now. No arguments. Message after message. People Sarah had helped, people she'd inspired, people she'd connected with over the past year. Each one a reminder that she wasn't alone, that she'd never be alone again. Mama, Tommy leaned against her. Can I ask you something? Anything, baby. Do you think Dad would be proud of us? Sarah froze. They never talked about Tommy's father. The man who'd left when Sarah got sick, who'd abandoned them both without looking back. The wound that had never quite healed. Why are you asking about him? Because I was thinking he left because things got hard. But Marcus and Ray and all the brothers, they stayed when things got hard. They helped when it would have been easier to walk away. So I was wondering if Dad would have been proud, or if he would have just left again. Marcus and Ray suddenly found other places to look. This was family business. Private pain. Sarah pulled Tommy close. Your father made his choice. It was the wrong choice. But baby, you know what his loss doesn't define you. You define you, and you've become someone incredible, someone brave and kind and strong, If your father can't see that, if he can't be proud of that, then that's his failure, not yours. I don't miss him, Tommy said quietly. Is that bad? No, that's honest. Sarah kissed the top of his head. And you've got plenty of people who are proud of you, including me, especially me. And us, Marcus added. Kid, your father walked away from the best thing that ever happened to him. But his loss is our gain, because now you're ours, and we're never letting go. Tommy smiled. Good, because I like you guys better anyway. They sat there as the sun set, 4 people who'd found each other in the cold and the dark, and had created something beautiful from desperation. Sarah, Ray said eventually. Marcus told me about the job offer. I haven't decided yet. Why not? It's perfect for you. Because I'm scared. What if I fail? What if I can't help people the way Rebecca thinks I can? Then you try again, Ray said simply. Sarah, you've already succeeded. Look around. Look at what you've built. That doesn't disappear just because you take on more responsibility. But what if... No what ifs, Marcus interrupted. You've spent 2 years surviving what ifs. Now it's time to live possibilities. Take the job. Change more lives. Show the world what you've shown us. Sarah looked at the plaque on the pillar. At Tommy's name, immortalized in metal. At the legacy of one cold night and one impossible choice. Okay, she said. I'll do it. Tommy jumped up. Really, Mama? Really, we're going to help everyone we can, just like people helped us. The next Monday, Sarah started her new job. The office was small but professional with a window that looked out over the city. Her city now. The city she was going to change. Her first assignment was to travel to Seattle to help them set up their blanket initiative. She brought Tommy with her, pulling him out of school for 3 days of what she called real-world education. The Seattle Hells Angels chapter met them at their clubhouse. They'd heard the story, seen the news coverage, and wanted to learn directly from the source. This is Tommy Chen, their president said, his voice reverent. The kid who started it all. Tommy shook hands like a professional. I just gave someone a blanket. Everyone else did the hard part. Kid's got modesty too, someone muttered. Unbelievable. Sarah spent 3 days training volunteers, setting up protocols, and sharing what had worked in Portland. But the most powerful moment came when she took the Seattle chapter to their equivalent of the bridge. 40 people were living there. Families, individuals, people who'd fallen through every crack in the system. What do we do? One biker asked. You see them, Sarah said. You talk to them like they're human. You offer help without judgment. You show up every week, no matter what. That's how you change lives. They distributed supplies, made connections, listened to stories. And when they left, Sarah saw the same transformation in these bikers that she'd seen in Marcus a year ago. The realization that helping people wasn't weakness. It was the strongest thing you could do. Back in Portland, the blanket initiative continued to grow. Other cities kept calling. Soon Sarah was traveling once a month, then twice a month, spreading the message that had started with one boy and one blanket. Tommy came with her whenever possible. He'd become a symbol, the face of childhood kindness, and people wanted to meet him, to hear his story directly. Don't you get tired of telling it? Sarah asked him after one particularly long day of interviews. No, Tommy said, because every time I tell it, someone else gets inspired. Someone else decides to help. That's worth being tired. 8 years old and wiser than most adults Sarah had ever met. 6 months after the anniversary, Sarah received a letter from the governor. The state wanted to implement a statewide version of the blanket initiative. They wanted Sarah to lead it. This is getting too big, she told Marcus. I'm not qualified for this. You're the only person qualified for this. You lived it. You understand it. You've proven it works. Marcus took her hands. Sarah, you're changing the world. Stop doubting yourself and just do it. What if Tommy suffers? What if he needs me and I'm too busy saving everyone else? Then you make time for him. But Sarah, look at your son. Does he look like he's suffering? Tommy was in the living room doing homework while listening to music. He'd made the honor roll again, had friends who called him every night, played soccer on weekends, was exactly the normal, happy kid Sarah had fought so hard to give him. He's thriving, Sarah admitted, because he's proud of you, because he sees you helping people and learns that that's what matters in life. You're not neglecting him by doing this work. You're showing him how to be a good human. Sarah took the job, statewide coordinator, an office in Salem, a team of 12 people working under her, a budget that made her dizzy, and the work expanded. More cities, more lives changed, more families reunited, more people pulled back from the edge. 1 year became 2, 2 became 3. The anniversary ceremonies grew larger each year, more survivors sharing stories, more programs launched, more proof that kindness could be systematic, sustainable, and transformative. Tommy turned 10, then 11. He grew tall and confident, the shy homeless boy completely transformed into a young man who understood his power to inspire change. "Mama," he said on his 11th birthday, "I want to start a youth version of the Blanket Initiative. Kids helping kids." "Tommy, that's a lot of responsibility." "I can handle it. And kids listen to other kids better than they listen to adults. We can make a difference." He was right. Within 6 months, youth blanket brigades existed in 43 schools across Oregon. Kids organizing supply drives, visiting shelters, learning about homelessness and compassion in equal measure. Tommy led them all. This boy who'd once had nothing now had a platform, a voice, and a mission. Marcus watched it all with pride so fierce it sometimes hurt. "That's my kid," he'd tell anyone who'd listen. "He changed my life." "He changed everyone's lives," Ray would correct, including his own. On the 5th anniversary of that night under the bridge, 5,000 people gathered for the ceremony. It had become a national event covered by every major news outlet. The mayor was there, the governor, representatives from 17 states with blanket initiatives, and standing on the stage, 11 years old and fearless, Tommy Chen told his story one more time. "I was 7 years old and freezing to death. My mom and I had one blanket between us, and there was a man dying right in front of us. I had a choice. Keep the blanket and maybe survive, or give it away and maybe die. I chose kindness, not because I was brave, but because my mama taught me that we're all one bad day away from needing help. And if I could help, I had to help." He paused, looking out at the thousands of faces watching him. 5 years ago, I gave a blanket to a stranger. Today, because of that one blanket, over 20,000 people have been helped. 20,000 people have found housing, food, medical care, hope. That's not because I'm special. That's because kindness multiplies. One act inspires another, which inspires another, until you have a movement. The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. So here's what I want to say to everyone watching this. You have a blanket. Maybe it's not a real blanket. Maybe it's time or money or just attention. But you have something you can give to someone who needs it more. And when you give it, you start a ripple. You change a life. And that life changes another life. And before you know it, you've changed the world. Tommy held up the original thermal blanket, now framed and preserved. The blanket that had saved Marcus's life. The blanket that had started everything. This blanket represents every act of kindness ever given without expecting anything back. It represents every person who chose compassion over comfort, every human who decided that other people matter. That's what we're celebrating today. Not me, not my mama, not the bikers who showed up, but the idea that we can be better, that we can help each other, that we're all in this together. He set the blanket down gently. 5 years ago, I was homeless and scared and cold. Today, I'm standing here because strangers became family, because one person kept his promise, because people decided I was worth saving. And now I'm asking all of you to make that same decision for someone else. Find your blanket, give it away, start your own ripple, because that's how we fix this broken world. One act of kindness at a time. The applause was deafening. People were crying, Sarah was crying, Marcus was crying. Even Ray, The toughest man Sarah had ever met was wiping his eyes. After the ceremony, a young girl approached Tommy. She couldn't have been more than 8. Her clothes were dirty, her hair tangled. Homeless Sarah recognized immediately. "Are you really Tommy Chen?" the girl asked. "Yeah, what's your name?" "Lily. I live under the bridge on Morrison Street with my mom." Tommy knelt down to her level. "Is your mom okay?" "She's sick, like your mom was. I'm scared they're going to take me away." Tommy looked at Sarah. Sarah looked at Rebecca Torres, who'd stayed close by. Rebecca nodded and immediately pulled out her phone to start making calls. Tommy took Lily's hand. "That's not going to happen. We're going to help you. Your mom's going to get better. You're going to stay together, I promise." "How do you know?" "Because 5 years ago I was exactly where you are, and people helped me. Now it's my turn to help you. That's how this works." Lily started crying. Tommy hugged her, this stranger who was really just a younger version of himself. "You're going to be okay," he whispered. "I promise." And he was right. Rebecca got Lily's mother into emergency medical care within 2 hours, got them into housing within 2 days. Within 2 weeks, Lily was enrolled in school, and her mother was recovering. One more life changed. One more ripple in the water. Sarah watched it all and felt overwhelming pride. Her son, her beautiful, brave son, had become exactly who she'd raised him to be. Someone who saw suffering and couldn't look away. Someone who had power and used it to lift others up. That night, back at their apartment, the one they'd lived in for 5 years now, the one that was truly home, Sarah tucked Tommy into bed, even though he insisted he was too old for that. "Mama, can I tell you something?" "Always. I'm glad everything happened the way it did. I'm glad we were homeless. I'm glad I met Marcus. I'm glad we struggled. Baby, I know that sounds weird, but if none of that happened, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have helped all those people. I wouldn't know what I know about being strong and being kind. So yeah, it was hard. It was really hard, but it made us who we are, and I like who we are." Sarah kissed his forehead. "I like who we are too. And Tommy, you made us who we are. Your courage, your compassion, your choice that night to give away our blanket, that's what changed everything. We changed it together, Mama. You, me, Marcus, Ray, all the brothers, everyone. That's the point. We can't do it alone, but together. Together we can do anything." Sarah turned out his light and went to her own room. Marcus was waiting on the couch. He came over most nights. Now had his own key, was family, in every way that mattered, except the legal paperwork. Sarah kept saying they should deal with eventually. "How's the kid?" Marcus asked. Wise beyond his years. Sarah sat beside him. "Marcus, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Do you ever regret it? Taking us on your life would be simpler without us." Marcus pulled her close. "My life would be emptier without you." "Sarah, before I met Tommy, I was going through the motions. Riding, drinking, existing, but not really living. That kid reminded me what it means to be alive. What it means to matter. And you..." He cupped her face. "You showed me what real strength looks like. What courage looks like. What love looks like." "I love you," Sarah said. She'd said it before, but it felt different now. More certain. More real. "I love you too. Both of you. My family." They sat there in comfortable silence, and Sarah thought about how far they'd come. From a bridge to an apartment. From desperation to stability. From strangers to family. All because of one blanket on one cold night when a boy decided kindness mattered more than survival. The blanket initiative continued to grow. 10 years after that night, it existed in all 50 states. Over 100,000 lives had been directly impacted. Homeless rates had dropped in cities with active programs. Success stories filled the news. And at the center of it all, now 17 years old and preparing for college, was Tommy Chen. The boy who'd given a blanket and received the world in return. He'd been accepted to every university he'd applied to. Full scholarships. His choice of futures. He chose social work at Portland State University so he could stay close to home, close to the work, close to the people who needed him. You could go anywhere, Sarah told him. Harvard, Yale, anywhere. I know, Mama, but this is where I'm needed. This is where I belong. Because Tommy understood something that took most people a lifetime to learn. That success wasn't measured in prestige or money or power. It was measured in lives changed, in ripples created, in the difference you made while you were here. On the night before he left for college, Tommy stood under the bridge with Marcus, Ray, and Sarah. The plaque was still there, weathered now, but readable. Tommy's corner boxes were all over the city, always stocked, always maintained. Feels like yesterday, Marcus said. You were this little kid with a blanket. Now look at you. I'm still the same person, Tommy said. Just taller. You're not the same, Ray corrected. You're better, stronger, but somehow you kept that heart, that kindness. That's rare, kid. Tommy looked at the plaque with his name on it. This isn't mine. This belongs to everyone who ever chose to help when it would have been easier to look away. I just happened to go first. That's leadership, Marcus said. Going first. Showing others it's possible. That's what you did, Tommy. You led us all to be better. They stood there together, 4 people bound by trauma and kindness and love. A family forged not by blood but by choice. By showing up. By keeping promises. Thank you, Tommy said suddenly. All of you. For saving us. For staying. For showing me that family isn't who you're born to. It's who shows up when you need them most. Sarah hugged her son tight. Marcus and Ray joined in. They stood there under that bridge where it all began and understood that some moments change everything. That some acts of kindness ripple forever. That some families are chosen, not given. And that one small boy with one small blanket had proven that love was always stronger than cold, that hope was always stronger than despair, and that kindness, real, genuine, selfless kindness, could change the entire world. Tommy Chen gave a blanket to a dying stranger on the coldest night of the year. That stranger brought back 1,000 brothers. Those brothers started a movement. That movement saved thousands of lives. And those lives saved thousands more. All because one 7-year-old boy decided that watching someone die was worse than risking death himself. All because compassion mattered more than survival. All because kindness in the end was the only thing that ever really mattered at all. The coldest night had been defeated by the warmest heart. And the warmth spread person to person, city to city, life to life, until the cold didn't stand a chance. Because that's what happens when you choose love over fear, generosity over selfishness, humanity over indifference. You don't just save one life, you save them all, one blanket at a time, one choice at a time, one heart at a time, forever.